Good evening, dear hearts, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Dance Show. And supporting us in our return to sacred flow this evening is the phenomenal Penny Collinson. Now, with over 30 years working in dance and somatic movement, Penny currently works as a somatic movement therapist, teacher, trainer, and supervisor. She's a published writer and has recently co-created a dance and health community interest company called Shoreline Health and Movement, offering classes, training, research and events around Morecambe Bay. Now, I've had the honour of knowing Penny for several years, as she was the course leader on my Dance and Somatic Movement Masters. So I have moved with Penny in many different ways, and so it's a real delight and joy to have this hour with you this evening, Penny. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Caroline. It's lovely to be invited on.
So I wonder, maybe, I know that the buzzword is somatics in these last few years, that more and more people are using that particular word. And I wonder, maybe it would be really nice to hear what somatic movement is for you and what it means to you, for anyone who's listening who maybe doesn't quite understand what it is.
Yes. Somatic is a tricky word. And certainly, we take a look at that word to start with. We look at soma. Soma meaning Greek for the living body. And so somatic practices involve inviting the participant to reflect, to notice, to become more aware of the experience of their body, their mind, their body-mind. So we're invited to become aware of our perceptions and our experiences. In other words, how something is sensed, how something is moving, how something is felt. Different ways of being invited into this. And there are, there's lots of body practices and movement practices which are very much focused on physicality and form and shape, perhaps much more about the external communication of that. But there are particular practices and practitioners who are interested in inviting the participant to really develop their self-awareness. So these are what somatic practices are.
It's really more. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is there's something about supporting people to develop awareness of how the body expresses itself, and that there's an emphasis more about the sensations and about how it feels rather than how it looks.
Very much so, yes. Yeah.
And how long have you been working in this way?
Well, I would say since the late 90s. So I've been dancing since dance training started for me in 1988. And I did 4 years of contemporary dance training, and then went into working in a dancing education company for 5 years called Ludus Dance Company in Lancashire. And contemporary dance and creative dance in education is inviting us to consider how our creativity feels. We're unfolding stories, we're communicating feeling, sentiment, emotion. I was always kind of drawn to this side of dance right from the beginning. But quite understanding and tracking how my movement felt and what was emerging spontaneously from inside me, it was a really different step. And this happened, as I say, much later on in the late 90s, when I just became much more interested in kind of quietening and settling. I had quite a shift in my life that that's catapulted this much more internalized inner focus, and this absolutely coincided with becoming aware of dance practices that were about authenticity, about listening to the body, about spontaneity and emergence of movement, sound, gesture, these kind of things.
So quite a shift for you, I'm hearing, to
Yes,
develop
it was.
a different kind of attention.
It's a very different attention, because classes, when we attend dance classes, we're very much following a teacher. We're following it. We might literally be following their choreographic material with the dynamics and emphasis and rhythm that movement class is asking from us. But actually, when we're invited to slow down, listen, and tune into our own movement, our own internal rhythms, sensations, dynamics, whoa, that's a really different invitation, and requires a very different holding actually as well.
Yes, yeah. And as delicious as I know it is, I'm also aware that for quite a lot of people, they might feel called to that kind of practice, but in reality, it can be very scary to shift our sense of attention and to try something that's quite it's quite unfamiliar perhaps in our culture.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's not for everybody, that's for sure. And I think that's where we have to. There's a few things, from this perspective of offering this work to people. I think great care needs to be taken in how we facilitate these sessions, and keep sort of gradually supporting this transition to internal awareness, which is then invited perhaps into a more external expression. And this is this subjective work is, and working personally like that, really, it just takes sensitivity. It takes going at a pace that is appropriate for people. It also, I think, requires explanations as you go a bit. People need to sort of have be able to sort of stick a pole in the ground and think, yeah, okay, I'm doing this because, or this process was quite scary. I didn't know what was going on. I felt lost. Why? And how might I develop ways to more consciously understand it, connect with it.
Yeah. So although it's very much body based, I'm hearing you name that there's something about responding to the needs of perhaps the left thinking brain that likes to make meaning and understand what's going on, whilst
Yes.
also attract or speaking to the right brain and the more creative aspect of who we are. And that
Yes.
there's a blending that a conversation then that takes place between thinking brain and creative mind.
That's right. There is. And sometimes, and actually being able to sort of land in one or the other in terms of where we put our consciousness is really an important part of developing our confidence in somatic practice. So, for example, I think a clear framework that does need to be understood, so for example, let's think very simply around a framework that's going to be, we're going to start in a circle, let's say with a group, and we're going to give one another eye contact and feel our feet on the ground and be aware of this circle that we're creating. And then we're going to invite half of that group to enter into the circle and close their eyes. They're going to move for a period of time, just as it spontaneously emerges. And at the end of that particular, that amount of time, we're going to be invited back out to the edge of the circle again. We're going to find people to have eye contact with, and we're going to sit and rest. Now that's a framework, that's a structure, that's something to sort of that contains what can then be explored without parameters, if you there are, you know, without parameters, if you like, really drop into the creative, the sensory, within this framework. So that there's an importance around the framework. It holds our consciousness. It enables us to go, okay, and this, for this time, in this place, in this context, I can open to the unknown here, but I know that I'm going to transition back out of that, back into a different consciousness, one where I can perhaps recall, think into, reflect upon, speak to others about, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it sounds like the importance of the container enables people to find freedom and to explore themselves in ways that they wouldn't normally.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Nicely put. And so you know, we don't want to be in the thinking mode when we're in the feeling, sensing, imagining mode, because the thinking mode can stop that process, or it can interfere in some ways, can't it?
Yes, we can be
Um,
quite self-conscious, can't we?
we can be self-conscious. We can start literally sort of thinking rather than feeling, rather than sensing. And so, you know, and so it's and then when we come into transition back into the resonance of the experience, or as I say, sort of tracking back and recalling what arose for us, or even thinking on to what's in me now, and how might I experience that through language or drawing or making, or so there's an onward going, which effectively is still a creative process, but it's sort of transitioned out of the more sensory movement part of the practice.
Yeah, and that sounds like that's really key for integration and to help people to, again, make sense of their experience and to honor it in a different way.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Really vital to have these dimensions. And you were mentioning earlier, you know, that somatic has become it's become much more recognized. I mean, since our experiences in COVID and the online work that came out of that, and the trauma work that's happening right now, somatic practice, the body, the role of embodiment has become much more recognized in supporting this sort of finding health, if you like, amidst our, you know, our mental health experiences. And again, I think therefore the need for these transitional stages to be clear and identifiable and supported with a practitioner and a participant, I think is really important, and it makes for such rich and valuable self-discovery.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm already feeling the potential just as you're speaking into the processes available. And I'm really hearing the emphasis on it's not simply movement for movement's sake. There's something about the quality of attention to the movement that's wanting to happen.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And you know, it's such a you know this so much with your work. It's such a process of being able to notice and listen and track these different channels in ourselves, aren't there? You know, the channel of imagination, the channel of sensation, the channel of image and metaphor, and so on. That that's coming through the body, that's constantly coming through our bodies, actually. But how do we land on listening to those? How do we develop a patience to stay with the these unfolding parts of ourselves? That takes time, and it takes repetition, and it takes literally sort of developing a period of time of practice. You'll probably recall from the course that we did, the master's course, that we did a lot of physical, practical, getting into your body physically, didn't we? A lot of moving in the space, different levels, different dynamics, different qualities, moving on your own, moving in pairs, moving in groups, sense space, sensing rhythm. You know, there's so many different dynamics and qualities that we are as a body that takes time to really get familiar with the body in that way. And I think for dancers who have developed somatic practice a great deal, you know, they've been sort of really take this work forward, but in the branch of somatic movement. I'll just a little aside to that. Somatics as a field recognized it as having 3 branches. One, somatic bodywork, another is somatic psychology, and another is somatic movement. These are branches that certainly cross over and feed into one another, but they've really been developed by those different disciplines in really very, very interesting ways. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I guess you're speaking into the dimensionality of the work. You know, my body's remembering the invitations and the opportunities to move and to come into conscious relationship with how my body wants to move through time and space.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so many dimensions of experience become open up for us. And you know, I'm speaking someone who had so much trauma stuck experiences in the body, and someone who was actually very scared to move my body. So I wasn't coming into this work as a seasoned dancer or mover by any stretch of the imagination. And what I discovered very quickly was this, the dimensionality and how much was available to me simply by yielding into a process of discovery through movement.
Yes.
And what it certainly supported and deepened within me is my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, my clairsentience, and it can really. And I'm by no means unique in that either. There's something about working in this way that supports people to really wake up and
Yes.
to tap into the full and innate potential available to us as spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. Couple of things to say about that. You know, you're right. You arrived not with the dance experience, and you arrived recognizing that there's trauma in your body, in your experience, that was playing out in different ways in terms of how you felt about your body, how your body moved or didn't, the sensory tacit kind of experience of yourself on lots of different levels. And so going back to my previous point, we are all bodies, and it is about awaking to the presence of ourself as a physical, moving, sensing, breathing body. And that's so profound, so revelatory. It's huge. You know, every student who came on the course had huge revelations,
Yeah.
and struggles, and points of which they came up against themselves and or others in big ways. And we kept saying, come back to the practice, work with the practice. How does the practice, in terms of framing, supporting, holding, sort of respecting and holding, your your own need for time and pace and slowness, and this is really real. You know, feeling takes time to be recognized. Finding a language for sensation takes time to be recognized. Having the confidence to feel you can move into space in the company of other people is a really beautiful, profound experience that takes developing, slow, secure developing, doesn't it? And we really tried to do that on the course as much as we were able to in that context of working in a university. But it, you know, as you'll remember, the group dynamics, the possibility for growth and support and careful kind of incubation for people. It was really profound at times, wasn't it? How that developed and happened for people over time. And it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing process for people, because we can go ever deeper into our body, mind, body self experience. And this is also very important, that we take time to sort of follow the direction that feels right for us in terms of working with our bodies.
Yeah, I really hear you speaking into the slow, deep pace that the body responds to and appreciates. You know, there's something about coming back to our nature, which isn't fast paced and 24/7 cycle that we tend to live in this modern world. We're far more cyclical beings who need that balance of rest and activity, and that perhaps through our modernization as humans, we have forgotten or not been taught how to really tune in to these very slow and often subtle expressions.
Yes, that's right. And certainly for myself, when I began to do a practice called authentic movement, which you and some of the other listeners may know of, which is a beautiful, it's called the discipline of authentic movement, which was developed by Janet Adler. But when I started to train in this practice in the late 90s, crikey, slowing down was really challenging, having come from dance, where I recognized my nervous system was so kind of stimulated just through my life experiences, but also through being a dancer who was very focused on performance and external kind of movement practices, that slowing down was both very difficult, but actually when I was able to do it, I realized how absolutely exhausted I was.
Yeah.
And I ended up sort of being really still most of the time, just so exhausted, and it took months really for micro movements, internal sensations, gestures, to feel that they could show themselves. I mean, it was a case of having to go backwards in order to then release energy, sort of dynamic energy that felt like it was coming from a place of health, really, rather than a place of will and push.
Yeah. And you're speaking so eloquently to how many of my clients, what they discover through just that slowing down and paying attention, that they become aware of their fatigue and how much they have been holding and doing, and that there can be a process of restoration that takes its own time before that dynamic sort of shift takes place. And it really is appreciate how challenging that is for a chronically stressed and activated nervous system
Yes.
to trust that there is safety in slowing down.
That's right. That's right. The trust that there is safety in slowing down. Yes, absolutely. And the confidence to do that, the dedication to time for that,
Mm.
the holding of that too, because it's also, we can get very lost in that place where we just know there's numbness here and there's
Mm.
weird tinglings there and there's pressure there and there's shooting movement there, and it's a place, the body, we have such complex relationships with our bodies that have started from being the infant, and even before, perhaps, in the womb and so on. And so we arrive into the world, and we grow into the world with so many experiences that we have a huge complexity towards our body and our notion of what it is to be acceptable body wise. And so there's so much support that's really needed in sort of grappling with ourselves. And I find it an absolute privilege to work with people long term, because then we can really go at a pace that where the body is finding safety, finding ease, learning from itself, where we can start to feel flow beneath the sort of our everyday awareness, or we can start to tackle some of these bigger dynamic feelings that are in our body. And the opportunity to work carefully, slowly, sensitively, with humor and love with our clients to meet these dynamics in ourselves is, it feels like it's just at the center, actually, of everything that I do, because I've had that experience. I've had that. I've had amazing teachers and peers and students that have helped me to come into a greater aliveness in my own body, with their presence, with their support, with their moving body beside me, moving in response to me, meeting me in my stillness, or whatever it might be. It's profound work that is really, really supporting the health of ourselves. We can be ill. We can be ill on so many levels, but actually, when we can work in this way with movement and sensing and touch is a big part of the work we haven't quite touched on yet, but it's just helps us to find what feels, where there's some joy, where there's some flow, where there's connection, where we can feel attuned to the world in our small and our big ways.
I could listen to you for hours, Penny. My body is just softening and dreaming with you and recognizing what you are describing. There's something about this very sacred work where we in our creative vulnerability.
Yes. Oh, and just a point on that, you talked about, we are, how did you phrase it? We are spirits who are learning to be human bodies. You phrased it, didn't you? And I was thinking also how this work also, we can start from the body, and actually, as we work with this kind of attention and awareness, the sacred, the spiritual, the extraordinary, the the energy, all of these can start to really awaken more and more too, we can find a language where we can open to that which feels that we are, but then is beyond us and that we are a part of, or however people describe and feel themselves within this work too. So it's that both. It's both, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it requires both, doesn't it, to be so rooted, to be so consciously rooted within our earthly experience, opens up the
Yeah,
path for that embodied spirituality.
it does. We don't want to lose, we don't want to come out of body
No.
specifically. It's through, within and out of body. It's the root. We do need this rooting, and again it goes back to my original point about the transitions of consciousness that enable us to sort of learn through our incredible experiences that we can have as we go into our bodies in these various ways.
And you touched upon touch and how
Yes.
that's a central element of somatic practice. And maybe you could talk a little
Mm.
about that.
Yes, touch is definitely one of the, let's say, tools that that practitioners work with, and when we think about somatic movement, for example, we may be touching through hands-on practice, but we're also using our whole bodies through movement contact, and so again, depending on what we feel ready for or what we're comfortable with, the contact can be as light as through touching the back of somebody else's hand, for example, and we move together. Our hands come together and they move together, or it can be full on kind of body contact where we're we're really dancing and moving and in contact through our bodies. I've just had a brilliant weekend of that with facilitated by Miranda Tufnell. It's a wonderful practitioner. I'll mention her books later on when we speak about that. But and so the touch, my cells connecting into your cells, with no intention to manipulate and do anything, but to meet cell to cell, to meet body to body. It has an extraordinary effect when it's done, again, with sensitivity.
Yes.
And a listening presence. If we can be present to our own body, we can bring that presence to another. And what we want from them, what we want for them rather, excuse me, is to be more present to themselves. So words can do that, music can do that, objects, nature, the elements can do that, and touch is another very powerful portal into sensing, feeling, into our imagination, into our inner landscape. Just having some water, my throat's gone dry.
Yeah, and I think for so many people we are touch deprived, and the irony is, with trauma, is that for many people they freeze and recoil from touch, whereas actually touch repatterns. It really restores and allows us to heal from trauma, and to have touch that is non-transactional, that is just two people meeting each other and communicating in that way, can change the world.
Yes, it can.
And
It
I know
can. And again, it's got to, especially for people for whom touch perhaps is the reason for their trauma too.
yeah.
So it has to be very skillfully,
Yes.
very carefully negotiated. I often use the analogy of sort of a wild animal, this sense of when we meet another body, the sensitivity around how might this body, listening in, how might I be able to meet this body? How this wild animal, this that has its own needs and that has its own energy. I don't want to thunder on in there and assume something
Yeah.
and say, yeah, come on, you need it like this and let's do it like that. It's the care, it's the listening, it's the touch may not happen for a while because it really it needs to get to a point where the nervous system is calm enough, inquisitive. There's an inquisitiveness, there's a desire for that inquiry, and we go very, very carefully with some clients. I mean, really very, very small ways, and that can build up. And as you say, the impact and effect of that over time is just remarkable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. And that used to be one of my favorite parts of the day would be the
Yeah.
beginning where we would tune into our own bodies of the type of touch that our bodies needed in that moment, and then to learn how to say that out loud and then to receive that touch. Something so profound about that.
Yes. Yes. Lovely.
And I'm aware of the time, Penny, and I'm also very envious that you had some time with Miranda Tufnell, who's a phenomenal
Yes.
practitioner. Anyone who's listening, please look her up and her work. But perhaps now might be a good time to for you to hold some space for us, if that feels
Mm.
okay.
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah. Yeah. And did you say it's about 10 minutes?
Yeah, just if you just
Yeah.
does that feel okay for you? I'm gonna try. I'm
Yeah.
gonna you'll just have a sense intuitively of what feels right.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. So speaking to each of you, and an invitation to start by just finding a place that feels comfortable. It may be that you're sitting and you feel that your pelvis is supported, or your back is supported. Maybe your head even is leaning against the wall, or maybe you're lying on the ground. See where you want to be. See where you want to be in this moment. And that can shift and move. There's something around, again, seeing yourself as this animal that is finding its comfort, finding where you want to be, making the small shifts in your position. Indeed, you could be up, walking and moving as I speak this, as I invite you. So follow what feels right for you. And first of all, as you do that, I would also suggest you might want to let your eyes close or gradually close, if that feels supportive. And if not, let the eyes also open, see the space around you, see the walls, see the ceiling, feel the ground underneath yourself. So you're sensing your body within this space, within this place that you are in right now. And gradually, as we turn and transition our attention inward, as you are right now, you may begin to notice there are particular things that grab your attention. Could be a little bit of pain here or there. Could be you realize you're very tired. Maybe you've got a busy mind even. So there's more mental activity. So want to allow this activity to still be happening, but I'm going to invite you to really see if you can keep a connection to your sense of body weight, your sense of the presence of your body in contact with wherever you're in touch right now, the seat, the wall, the floor. So keep some awareness to this contact, and you may even find yourself feeling that contact, feeling the wall. Your feet might be moving against the floor. You might be shifting from one sits bone to another. In your own pace, your own speed. Sensing your weight, a bit like an hourglass, where the sand or the salt falls through and arrives down, waiting into gravity. And if you haven't already, join some awareness also now to your breath. Body breathes by itself. So you're joining with it, you're noticing, my inhale and my exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. As you continue this process, seeing, if any more movement is quite organically arising. Any more movement through the body, maybe through the spine, or the neck, into the head, any part. Just letting your awareness keep with that movement. Notice the sensation of that movement. And the direction of an impulse or a movement. It might be a direction up or down. And as you breathe and you move and you sense, maybe an image that comes to you or a memory that comes to you. Could be fleeting, or it could be unfolding. So we're finding ground, we're finding contact with surfaces with your body. We're breathing, we're joining with our breath. We're noticing any movements, could be internal shifts and dynamics, could be gestures and movements and actions of the body in any way. And there could be an image, a memory, sensation of something that's coming to you, something that feels aware or insightful, or something that's coming to you. Could be there in this moment. It might not be too. We're going to do this for another minute or so, so I'm going to invite you to bring attention back, particularly to where you're in contact in your room, a surface in your room. Might be also about letting the hands come onto that surface, or the head. To gradually also let your hearing come into your room, as well as hearing my voice, what's in your space, what's beyond your space. And gradually letting your eyes open, taking in the light, the shadow, the movement outside. And gradually letting the impulses fall away until you find stillness and rest. Stillness and rest. Okay, back to you, Caroline, when you're ready.
Well, the image that arises from my sensing, resting body is I see myself like a plump pea in a pea pod, but the pea pod is made of not like candy floss or cotton wool, but like real webbing. And I feel really cozy and held and very content. So that's coming through for me, and your invitations to bear witness to how I am, how we are in these moments.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Your image of a plump pea in a pea pod. That's absolutely wonderful. The colour is it transmutes to me, doesn't it? To get, it's passed on to me, this sense of this image, and the colour and this, maybe the size. So it comes into my imagination too now, as well as yours. Yeah.
Yes, it's the beauty of this work. The bringing to life really invites, stepping into each other's worlds.
It does. And as we, just knowing that I've offered that short practice and that there are other people listening to this practice too, again, just want to invite you to see, keep seeing that my body's here. I'm present here in this moment. I can push into my muscles a bit if I need to really reassure myself of that. Yeah, I can bring what's just happened down into the paper. I could write something perhaps if I needed to, or draw out of this to ground it even more externally, as well as the internal experience of it.
Yes, so helpful and so important to flesh out the experience onto the page, and it can really help to support our developing language and imagination and understanding of ourselves. So thank you for
That's
that.
right. That's lovely. Yeah.
Beautiful reminder for future listeners as well, when they listen to this, how they can support their integration beyond our hour together.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And it's only short, the 10 minutes, but sometimes these short dips in can be very, very helpful. It's, they can bring us to a calmness, they can bring us to an openness, they can drop some tiredness away, they can open our imagination for what we're going to be doing next. They can be really helpful, just these small dips. And even to draw for 2 minutes, for 1 minute, to just grab a color that's suddenly speaking to you and draw into a blank sheet of paper. It can be so short, but that we are really developing this dialogue with our bodies. And when bodies feel seen and heard, and it's like the self is interested in me, then we get more feedback. So this level of listening and speaking and listening with body, hearing body. Tell me, body, tell me about yourself. this is a lovely process, and it can happen in these very small ways, as well as deep, big dives too.
Absolutely. And I find that actually sometimes the shorter processes can go very deep very quickly. And it's
Yeah,
a useful way to begin, especially for someone who's maybe not tried this before and who's wanting to themselves gently into increasing their tolerance and capacity to
yeah,
be embodied consciously.
yeah, absolutely. So important for these reasons that we've already spoken about. That we can go in small, bite-sized amounts.
Yeah,
Excuse me, and they sort of add up really quite quickly. It is extraordinary how quickly we can come into this work and feel, I'm finding my roots already. I'm finding ground already with this. It's really
yeah,
great.
exactly. So helpful to know for anyone who feels or has convinced themselves that they don't have time to try something
Mm,
like this. They can really, all it can take is just a couple of minutes in the kitchen while the kettle's boiling. I used to have post
yes.
notes all over my kitchen of where are my what is gravity to me right now, and just like little
Yes.
reminder
Lovely.
myself to be
Oh,
present.
that's really yeah. Wonderful.
Anyway,
Wonderful.
we're coming up to sort of the last section of the show, Penny, and I'm really excited to hear about your community interest company that you're co-creating. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So it's called Shoreline Health in Movement. What I should say is, it's a collective of 4 practitioners who live and work around the Morecambe Bay area in
Amazing.
Lancashire. Um, we're we're practitioners with different. We're all movement somatic practice practitioners, but we have other specialisms or areas that we've worked a lot in. So we have one of the 4 is a psychotherapist as well, a Hakomi practitioner, has done a lot of drama and theatre, and as well as somatic practice. Another one is very experienced in early years work and working with parents and children, and working in music and the community practices. So she's bringing a real richness around the early years work. And another director of the company is a specialist in working with dance with people with Parkinson's and other neurological conditions, as well as background of working in higher education, further education, community dance, etc., etc. Between us, we've got quite a lot of experience. So we came together earlier this year and thought, wouldn't it be great if we could actually collaborate rather than trying to do it all on our own? And
Absolutely.
speaking this last weekend with a number of other practitioners who work in health from all over the country, it's tough doing all of this work on your own as an independent freelance practitioner. So collaborations bring real opportunities, and we are just setting out. So we've registered our company. We
Amazing.
haven't started trading yet. We're still in that process of going, establishing what kind of projects would we like to do, and they will include very specific groups. For example, offering a pain work for people who are living with pain challenges and chronic pain. Another group will be working with mums and babies. There'll be other ones that are working with dementia and people living with Parkinson's. Another is with a group of people who have mental and physical health challenges and who meet regularly, and we come in and contribute to their well-being day with somatic practice. We've done quite a lot of that, and we want to pick that up again now within the Shoreline capacity.
God,
We also go into people's houses, one-to-one practice with people who are living with conditions, which means they can't leave their house. So we've got lots of ideas. Events, we've been doing some research. Two of us did a research project at the end of last year where we worked with 10 movement and health practitioners living in Lancashire and Cumbria, which was called 10 Conversations. And we were specifically looking at what are the challenges behind developing and growing our work as practitioners in movement and health. Who are those organizations, individuals who we want to have conversations with, and what do we need to arrive at to have those conversations? What do we need to have done in order to prepare for those conversations? And who do we need to talk to? And what do we need to say? And so really get into the nitty-gritty about developing strong links with within other disciplines and fields and organizations. So there's lots of things that we look forward to doing over these next few years, where we'll be applying for funding as well as inviting, and generating groups, paying groups. And we want to do some writing as well, and write about our work and document our work within a well-being framework.
God,
so we did.
I'm so delighted for all of you and for Morecambe Bay and beyond to what
Yes.
is this. I can feel the healing vibrations and frequencies from here, the healing that you're already initiating just through coming together and seeding this collective. I mean, community healing is what this is really all about, and
Yes.
what a phenomenal group of practitioners. I'm very excited to keep my finger on the pulse with all your future offerings. This is amazing.
Yes, thank you. That's lovely. I love your confidence in us.
And for anyone listening in this present moment and future listeners, please check out this community interest company, Shoreline, and also to check out Penny's website. And if you might want to look at working with her individually or inviting her in to hold space as for one of your community groups. I mean, I can't recommend you highly enough. Penny as a practitioner, just phenomenal and so inspiring. And yeah, it's just been so lovely to spend this time with you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to have to bend your ear at another time. I'm thinking of setting up my own little sort of enterprise. So yeah, that's a conversation.
Yes, you bet. I'll be on for that conversation for sure.
But we're coming to that time of the show because I am a bookworm and I've got about 50 books next to my bed. And so, of course, I don't need any more. I'm on the lookout for recommendations, and I'm curious what books you might suggest to us listeners that could really sort of, I don't know, animate our souls.
Well, I'm going to really sort of stick within the somatic, embodiment, arts and health, this kind of arena. So there's one book that I've been introduced to fairly recently, which I really like. It's called Words That Touch: How to Ask Questions Your Body Can Answer, and it's written by Nick Pole. This book talks about the idea of 12 essential clean questions for mind-body therapists. Clean questions, essentially being questions which simple questions that really invite the client to find something, notice something, be aware of something, and find words to describe this, and to really, for the therapist, not to interfere with their own kind of interpretations and so on, but to keep steering the participant to finding the answers for themselves. So I'm really enjoying this book.
It's
Words
great.
That Touch. You know the book.
I do. It's been on my bookshelf for years. I read it years
ago. Oh, there you go.
And so I've got it back out because then you might recommend that, and I started rereading it again. So it really is beautiful, but I'm like digesting it very slowly. I'm actually reading a page and then just leaving it until the next day, really allowing it to drop back into the body. But something you name there, that sense of how to hold space for conversations with oneself without any stories or projections being put upon the body, because the body is tired of that.
Yeah, that's right.
We're so keen to make up reasons that may not have any bearing on what's actually happening.
That's right. And it really is also working with how the body generates metaphor.
Yeah.
So, the power of metaphor and the, staying with that, inviting the client to really open to that metaphor and what else about that, and what else do you is drawing you to that, what else. So it's a lovely, I'm really, have enjoyed exploring these questions that are in that book. So that's one. I mentioned Miranda Tufnell earlier on, and she has a number of books, particularly to do with dance, health, and imagination. Her book is called When I Open My Eyes.
Mm.
And this came out 2016. It's a beautiful book that documents her 14 years of working in a GP surgery, offering touch and Alexander technique, and her sort of own intuitive movement awareness and so on. And this book is specifically, has invited other dance and health practitioners to contribute, to offer vignettes of stories of how they worked, how they've, in different contexts, hospitals, community groups, one-to-one clients, etc. So that's a wonderful book, as are her other books.
They are.
And she is working on another one. Exciting. Then also my other teacher, who has I've trained with for 20 years, is Linda Hartley.
Yeah.
And she has her own, she's developed an amazing program which I studied in, which is part of the Institute for Integrative Bodywork and Movement Therapy. Again, I'd really check that out if you're interested in doing an in-depth somatic movement training. But one of her books, The Fluid Nature of Being, Embodied Practices for Healing and Wholeness, is one of her books. Let me have a quick look at my cupboard here. Somatic Psychology. She's again done a number of books and has a new one that's in the pipeline. It's really, in fact, it's gone to the printers. It's coming out really soon. So definitely want to find out what that is, where she's really speaking into embodiment. What is this thing,
Beautiful.
Yeah. So how does that do? Is that enough for now?
Well, it is, but I'm just curious about when you perhaps are going to bring your book out, and maybe perhaps your collective will create.
Yes. Oh, yes. I think we should. I mean, I've enjoyed contributing to books,
Yes.
And writing some chapters and so on. And it's possible, I can send people copies of those if they're interested. Just contact me through my website. There's some links on my website as well to some of the writing I've done. But yeah, it would be that would be something to work towards, wouldn't it?
I can feel it already. But for anyone who's listening, please check out Penny's writing. You've got such a way of animating the reader so that we are in an embodied process, not as a passive reader, but as an active journeywoman. It's an art form, and I know that comes from somatic practice. It's one of the side effects of being consciously embodied, is our capacity for poetic and lyrical language and of descriptions of our experiences in a way that wake up other people's bodies.
Yes. Yes, thank you. That's so kind of you. It's really generous.
And sadly, we have come to the end of an hour, and I have to say, as always, when spending time with you, it feels like a minute.
Thank you. That's wonderful, Caroline. Really, really, really enjoyed it.
Me too. It's just been a real honor again to kind of share space with you in this way. And please recommend all listeners, present and future, to check out Penny's website. I will post that on the Telegram channel, but I think, is it pennycollinson.co.uk?
It's hello. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah, it's pennycollinson.com.
.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, my dear, so we have come to the end of another episode of the Inner Dance Show, and it has been glorious. I just feel my cup is full and just flowing. So thank you so very much, Penny, and wishing everyone sweet lucid dreams when they come, and look forward to tuning in with you all next week. So I'm just going to stop the recording now. Okay, my lovely.
Thank you.